What's happening, YouTube? Cowboy here, and even though we're done the walkthrough for The Witcher 3, I wouldn't quite feel right without bringing you guys a build video. So today I'm going to go into the build that I used with Geralt as I played through the game. For those unaware, the entirety of the walkthrough was of course on Death March, so this is a very powerful build. I wouldn't quite say it's OP, in a sense it's a jack of all trades as it is a hybrid build. We have a big focus on fast attacks as well as signs, and then a little bit of alchemy worked in, and all in all it comes very well rounded together to create both a powerful build and, in my opinion, a very fun way to play the game. So to get things started, we're going to take a look at our inventory. Now, being as this is a hybrid build, our gear is also hybrid. So we ended up going for the Griffin swords, and as for our armor, we went for the feline armor. Now, a lot of you might be wondering, why didn't we go all feline or all griffin or even get the wolf armor, which is DLC based, and in short, I ended up deciding on this because the attack power bonuses on the feline armor, as you can see, 20%, 10, 10, and then 10, helped out greatly for the sword style that I was going for, whereas the Griffin swords have a very high critical hit damage bonus on them, 25 on each of those blades, in addition to 5% critical hit chance and of course the 20% sign intensity, whereas the feline swords had a focus more on just raw crit, and I didn't need crit, I needed more crit damage. As for the wolf armor, I actually put all the numbers out onto paper, and the stats were, if you added up all the stats, the values were equal, but the wolf armor was more tailored towards adrenaline. And on top of that, because it's a medium armor, I wanted to stick more with light because of one of the skills that we ended up getting, which is going to help this build out a lot more. So, of course, looking at our runes in the swords, I ended up going for burning, poison, and then attack power. If you want to be even more OP, feel free to swap the attack power out for a chance to stun on hit. Kind of broken. I felt it was a little bit too overpowered, whereas attack power is just a nice solid upgrade. And then because of one of the perks we have later, we have a chance to bleed enemies on fast attacks. So with that, plus the chance to burn, plus the chance to poison, gives us nice damage over time application, which is great because we're very focused on fast attacks with this build. As for our crossbow, we don't use it a lot, but we did end up going with the feline crossbow just because it has nice stats all around. Good boost to attack power on there, plus the critical hit chance, the adrenaline point gain, and the armor piercing. Plus, who doesn't want more bonus experience from monsters? So to take a look over at our character, I'm going to go into the order that I built this in and what I would suggest doing. That being said, the best way to build Geralt is the way you're most comfortable with. You find yourself using swordplay a lot more than focus on getting down into the sword tree more. I actually ended up going swords and then sign and then back to finishing up with swords. But there's a couple factors that are going to go into it. Like right now you can see, even though we're level 34, I have 9 extra points available with this build being where it's at. And a lot of that is from grabbing the places of power. So assuming you stay on top of your places of power, you could have this build close to being completed around level 25. So either way, the way we leveled, first we put 5 points into muscle memory. As I mentioned, we have a focus on fast attacks, so this is giving us 25% increase in damage. From there, you can put points wherever you want. We just want to progress down to the next tier, which is going to be fleet-footed. Now this is very important for this build in my opinion because we are wearing light armor. And for those unaware, between light, medium, and heavy, the way it works is light armor has very high stamina generation, and of course, low armor. Medium armor has medium stamina generation and medium armor, and then heavy, of course, has low stamina generation and high armor. So fleet-footed works very, very well into this build because reducing the damage from hits by 100% is huge, especially because we can't really afford to take hits in light armor. After we pick that up, we're going to move on over to precise blows, increase the chance of landing a fast attack critical hit by 10%, and that critical hit damage by 75%. And that is going to be our first couple skills, as you can see right here. In addition, you do want to start working towards a greater red mutagen, which when you drop that in, that'll give us a boost to 40% on our attack power. So from here, I ended up moving into signs, and if you want, you could actually pick up these first 3 points before anything else. Now, Delusion is a fantastic skill all around, very helpful during the entirety of gameplay. There's a lot of conversations where Axie's going to be a potential choice, and it's usually a great way to resolve the situation. You get a nice little chunk of experience out of it. On top of that, it does help in combat quite a bit, especially against humanoid targets, as you can hit them with Axie and they'll basically just stand there stunned while you walk up and one-shot them. Moving on from there, initially I did an Igni build. Of course, that was nerfed into complete oblivion with the latest update. So in lieu of that, I decided to focus on Yrden instead, and Quen. Quen, of course, for protection, Yrden to give me more battlefield control. So as you can see, I have 2 points here and sustained glyphs. And this is a great buff for Yrden, even if you don't use it that much, because it'll let you put down 2 traps, and on top of that, increases the sign duration. Moving on from there, down more into this tree, we pick up Magic Trap, giving us the alternate mode for Yrden, which isn't all that powerful, but it does slow all enemies within a 14-yard radius, destroying projectiles, so of course it snipes arrows out of the sky. And on top of that, it's great when you're fighting multiple foes, because it'll usually keep one enemy pretty much staggered consistently so you can focus on other ones. Additionally, the other alternate sign we're going to go for is Quen here, which is very powerful because it allows us to put up a shield, and on top of that, damage that gets absorbed, it goes straight back into our vitality, and that's going to help us out a lot until we get later into the game where we can regen vitality through our decoctions. The one other thing I want to point out, because as you can see I do have a lot of extra points, later on in the game if you find yourself not using Axii all that much, I would suggest leveling up Melt Armor. Even without a focus on Igni, a quick burst from a level 5 Melt Armor is great, especially against some of the later enemies in the game, like when you're fighting the guys with the Wild Hunt. This will absolutely shred their defenses, take their Frost Armor off, things of that nature, and it will help a lot in battle. Moving back over into the combat tree, Whirl. Now, Whirl is an absolutely fantastic attack, especially when you're surrounded by enemies, and that's what it's intended for. It allows you to basically spin around, obviously at max level, consumes 50% less stamina and adrenaline, and it does a ton of damage. It's extremely fast. More advanced enemies, like fighting people from the Wild Hunt, they'll usually block a lot of the attacks, but basic enemies, they just stand no chance against it, and you'll utterly rip them apart. Moving on from there, to open up our final tier, we picked up Razer Focus. Now, Razer Focus is great because it's going to give us 1 adrenaline point as soon as we enter combat, and increase the adrenaline points from our sword blows by 25%. So that 1 point will allow us to jump straight into a whirl, which is really good if, you walk in, there's a camp full of bandits, you can jump straight into your whirl and start tearing people apart. The last point we're going to pick up here is Crippling Strikes, which is an absolutely amazing skill. This makes it so all of our fast attacks will apply a bleeding effect, causing enemies to lose vitality or essence over time. And of course, as you may remember, that'll synergize very well with our swords, which are applying a burning and poison effect on chance as well. So, of course, if you have it, a greater red mutagen would be ideal here, taking that attack power bonus from 28 up to 40. I just couldn't get one. I kept trying to farm, and I just kept getting blues and greens and blues and greens, and couldn't quite get the red mutagen, so I ended up settling, and even then I was still plenty powerful with this. So, moving over here into the final set of points, as you can see, I, of course, put Delusion right here, as these are my 3 combat glyphs. But the last 3 points we have are just as important. Now, Acquired Tolerance. This, in my opinion, is probably a centerpiece of this build. And don't get me wrong, with just swords and signs, you're still very powerful, but Acquired Tolerance gives this build what it needs to be an absolute beast. Every known level 1, 2, or 3 alchemy formula increases maximum toxicity by 1. Now, although this is an amazing skill, I would suggest waiting until later in the game to pick it up. The earliest I would suggest getting it would be when you're getting ready to go towards Skellige, and the reason for that is, prior to that, you don't have all these many alchemy formulas, and without those, you're not going to see as much benefit out of it. Late in the game, though, this is amazing, and the reason we're picking up this is with Acquired Tolerance, I can take 2 decoctions and still use potions in battle, which is huge. Our last point in the passive tree is going to be cat school techniques. Now, this is devastating, and the main reason why I wanted to do a hybrid using both the feline gear, which is light, along with the griffin swords. Each piece of light armor increases critical hit damage by 25% and fast attack damage by 5%. So we're getting a 100% boost to our critical hit damage, and we already have a very, very high critical hit chance. I mean, I believe it's somewhere in here. If we can scroll down, we should see it. Critical hit chance with the silver sword is at 20%. And then I'd assume that a strong sword is 20% as well. No, it's just silver. Where's our regular sword? Yeah, steel sword 20% as well. So 1 in every 5 hits is going to crit. And on top of that, we have a 100% boost to those crits from here. We have a nice, significant critical hit damage boost coming from our griffin swords, and that works really well. In comparison, looking at Griffin School techniques, sign intensity by 20% with, full medium armor on, and then stamina regeneration. Well, the stamina regeneration is going to be canceled out by the fact that we're wearing light armor to begin with, and the sign intensities, since we're using our signs for more defensive and crowd control, we don't need it as much. So in short, even though the wolf gear and the feline gear plus griffin swords are comparable, that extra 100% critical hit damage really makes using the feline gear shine up and above. So that is the build. At this point, as you can see, even though we are done the game, we got quite a few little things left on the map. One over here, a couple up here, and basically we're just going to jump around and show you what this is capable of in combat. Alright guys, so we have stumbled into a den full of wraiths here. It's a good monster den, and they're level 29, so this will be a pretty good way to demonstrate what this is capable of. So as I mentioned, this build is capable of using 2 decoctions while still taking potions. As for our potions, the one I have on the hotbox, as you can see there, is Thunderbolt, giving us a 100% critical hit chance during storms, which is completely OP. But on top of that, a nice boost to attack power. When I was still leveling up, I ended up using Swallow quite a bit. Now I find that I don't usually need it. Now, as for our 2 decoctions, there's a ton of different decoctions in the game. You know, feel free to play around, see what you like the most. My personal favorites for combat are going to be the Echidna decoction, which makes it so that any actions that consume stamina will regenerate our vitality, and of course the Catachan decoction, which will increase our critical hit chance. So with that one up, going down, you can see our critical hit chance is now up to 25%. Not too bad, 1 in 4 hits. And on top of that, because of the regenerate stamina we get from the Echidna decoction, anytime that we cast a sign, we can heal. So we're going to put our Quen up. We're going to get Yurden up shortly. One wraith down. 2 wraiths down. Look at that. Our health's getting a little low. That won't be a problem. Now you can see Wraith just going to town right now. This poor last Wraith has no idea what it's in for. So you can see right there, just popping that Quen got us a nice little chunk of health. That's our Echidna decoction at work. Where are you running? There will be no escape. And given these guys were only level 29 and I'm at level 34, honestly, I haven't found a lot of enemies that are at my level yet. I mean, I'd love to fight like an army of level 35 giants, but thus far I haven't found anything of that nature. Oh well. Looks like they're all cleaned out, so either way, we'll head on over to this fast travel and find somewhere else we can go, potentially bigger prey. Alright guys, in our search of bigger and meaner game, coming to a little remote island. For those curious, it's just northeast of Caer Trold. Basically looked online if anyone had any leads on big monsters, and there was mention of a very, very high level griffin here, so we moseyed on out, and lo and behold, there it is. And it's level 48. This is going to be bad. I mean, Jesus Christ, at level 48, this thing hits me once and I'm probably done for. Let's see just how hard those critical hits are damaging him, though. When I can get in and hit him, though. Hoo 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 hoo! Oh boy, that could have been close. Could have been real bad. Oh my god! I mean, I knew it would hit hard, but sweet Jesus. He's trying to spit acid at me. close here. Got a really good whirl on it. Oh man. Try to do that scream. This is what I love the Echidna Decoction for. This helps out a ton. And down it goes. Now that is a kill worthy of the build video. So I'd say that's it, guys. I mean, a level 48 Griffin. And just to put it in perspective, we are level 34. So we just killed something almost 15 levels higher than us. So needless to say, very, very powerful build. You guys saw just how much of a burst we were able to get in there when we stunned him briefly coming out of the air and jumped into the whirl. And even then, you also got to see how brutally powerful that Griffin was when it managed to hit me just once. So either way, I mean, I'm kind of sad to end this just because I just finished the walkthrough earlier, and God, I'm going to miss this damn game. But there are expansions coming, so either way, thanks for tuning in, guys. Hope you enjoyed the build. I highly recommend trying it out. It really is a ton of fun being able to, you know, have strong sword play, plus the signs, plus the decoctions. And I know I didn't really have a good opportunity to show off the potential of some of the other signs either. You know, it's just, don't find a lot of enemies that I can really need to use, you know, the double Yurden, but I know against big groups, you know, I like to put down 2 of the Yurdens and then drop the alternate Yurden, and it's like just a control field, which is fantastic battlefield management. You know, anyone that walks in these is slowed. This staggers and knocks people away. But that's about it. So either way, thank you very much for coming on by. If you guys haven't had a chance to watch the walkthrough, I'd highly recommend it. I mean, obviously I'd highly recommend it. It's my walkthrough, but either way, thanks for tuning on in. Hope you guys enjoyed the build. And I suppose we'll see you with the Witcher 3 expansion.